Hi, I'm Paul Edwards, author of the Mourner's Woods books, and first and foremost, a monster kid. Tonight I'm watching Grave Encounters from 2011. Grave Encounters is a Canadian found footage film. It tells the story of a crew of amateur filmmakers who are trying to put out an independent series, Grave Encounters, in which they act as ghost hunters. And there was a trend of these ghost hunting shows in the early 2000s. So this is one of these kinds of amateurish operations where a film crew would visit a spooky or reportedly haunted location and poke around, basically looking to find any evidence of paranormal activity. In this case, Grave Encounters, their show, has aired for 5 episodes, and they're trying to make a new episode filming on location at a reportedly haunted mental hospital. This mental hospital closed years ago, and it's a huge complex where, unfortunately, many mental patients were subjected to frontal lobotomies, which was a brutal brain operation that used to be conducted in the 20th century, which would treat mental illness by removing a portion of the patient's brain. So there should be plenty of ghosts in this mental hospital because plenty of people died here. One thing that is a little inconsistent, I think, in the premise is that the ghosts in this asylum, and of course they do encounter ghosts, there's no surprise in that. The ghosts in this asylum are extremely hostile. There are no, ghosts that are just roaming the halls aimlessly. Every phantom they encounter is malicious. And this really doesn't fit the premise of the hauntings because frontal lobotomy does not result in an angry patient. If anything, it results in a too sedate of a patient. A person who has undergone a frontal lobotomy is not going to be a rageaholic, which these ghosts seem to be. But okay, if you can look past that inconsistency, the setup and the first portion of the film are actually quite good. The crew is locked in the mental hospital overnight as part of their stunt for the cameras. They have a caretaker lock them in, and he won't be back until morning to get them out. And as they roam around the disused mental hospital, at first there are subtle scares, like they'll show a hallway on camera, and when one of the characters isn't looking, a door behind him will creak just a little bit open, or a wheelchair that's discarded in the hallway will roll a few inches forward and then stop. Subtle scares, which are very effective in the found footage format. And, especially if there's a character who's in the scene but is not looking right at the thing that's moving. Some of those scares are done quite well here. Unfortunately, as the movie goes on, the spectral activity becomes more and more blatant. And before you know it, we're seeing ghosts every time we turn around. As the characters are running, screaming like maniacs through the mental hospital, there are ghosts in this room, ghosts in that room, and they're never just sitting there. They're always jump scaring the characters. And some of the special effects are not great. It's not too hard to do special effects to just show like a phantom figure in the background with a spooky face. That's easy enough. But when you start doing things like having phantom hands reach out from the walls to grab the main characters, which happens a couple of times in this film, you really have to make sure it looks good, because if it looks hokey, you've completely lost the suspended state of disbelief. And unfortunately, some of the effects like this are not great. There's one particular scene where hands and arms are reaching down through the ceiling down to grab at the characters, and the effect just looks so amateurish They really shouldn't have kept it on camera for as long as they did. If they were going to go with that effect, they should have done just a quick glimpse of it and then have the camera turn away. That they could have got away with it that way, I think. But unfortunately, the effects of the Phantoms generally are not top-notch. I have to say that as we get late into the movie, it actually starts to get better again. In the final, and this is a minor spoiler, in the final segment of the film, the last character that we're left watching and following is roaming the mental hospital by himself, and it seems to be an endless procession of corridors that can't possibly go on as long as they have. Either he's very lost, or the ghosts are able to manipulate time and space, because no matter how far he walks in the catacombs of the mental hospital, he can never get out. And the film actually gets better during that portion, I think. Your impression of Grave Encounters probably will depend on whether you appreciate found footage movies in general. If you like found footage movies, you absolutely will like this one. It's one of the better found footage films that came out during the craze of found footage films that followed the Blair Witch Project. If you're not a fan of found footage, which not every horror fan is, this movie's not going to change your mind. This movie's not going to sell you on this subgenre. There are better, more character-oriented found footage films around that make more complete stories, I think. But this film is very effective as a ghost story in found footage format. I do think that found footage horror movies tend to do well when they're showing something like a haunting, where you can do it with subtle scares. One of my favorite found footage films is Lake Mungo, which is a ghost found footage film. This movie has a lot more, Grave Encounters, has a lot more jump scare type material in it. And I think it might have been trying to appeal more to general audiences than to found footage fans. I'll leave it to you to decide whether they really succeeded in that. But if you like found footage films and you've somehow missed this one, it's absolutely worth catching. If you enjoy classic monsters and vintage horror, check out my book series, the Mourner's Woods books. I'm self-published on Amazon. I've written a series of novels set in a haunted forest. I'll drop a link in the description to this video. My books, again, are the Mourner's Woods books. My name is Paul Edwards. Thanks for letting me talk to you some about Grave Encounters. I'll see you in Mourner's Woods.